Hey, welcome to the video.
And happy Easter!
So today we're doing another spooky reacts video.
But today we're keeping it Easter themed.
So apparently they are true stories.
So this should be interesting.
Yeah. Let's get started.
Let's get into it.
That's creepy.
Such a charming voice.
Yeah.
This took place on Easter in 2012 when I was 9 years old. I just had a fun day with my family out on the beach where we had a bonfire. It was late at night and my parents decided to go back home. It was about 1 in the morning, which was super late, and my parents never let me stay up this late. But because they knew how much fun I had, they let it slide this one time. When we got home, my mom walks me to my bed and tucks me in. As she was rubbing onto my head as it helped me sleep, the house phone suddenly rang. I still remember the sudden change in my mom's face because who the hell would be calling us this late? My mom gets up to pick up the phone and ends up bumping into my dad as she walks out of the room. My mom looks at me with a smile and tells me that she'll be right back. They both go together and I hear my dad answering the phone. Next thing I know, I see both of my parents rushing to each room and window to close and locking all of them. My dad came into my room and said that I'll be sleeping in their bed tonight. He said to not worry and still gave me a smile when he picked me up. He was patting my back, still trying to put me to sleep, but despite telling me to not worry, I was still scared as I never seen my parents panic like this. He lays me down on their bed and he walks out of the room. My parents are whispering to each other, but I can still make out what they were saying. What I heard really gave me the chills. My father said that a man on the other end was using some sort of voice changer, saying that he was going to kill him, that he knew him very well, and would kidnap me and my mother. He also said that he was outside of our house and wanted my dad to come out. My parents come back in, and they all lay back down to sleep. I saw my dad pull out his rifle and placed it near him. The next morning, my dad looked like a mess, and he didn't take me to school, which was odd because he always would. You can tell my dad barely got any sleep. I like to think that whoever called was some sort of messed up person who somehow got our phone number and wanted to pull a sick prank. That's what I like to tell myself anyways. This happened when I just got out of a relationship with a guy who looked amazing but would constantly steal my money that I kept in a box right under my dresser, and he would throw parties when I was working 8-hour shifts trying to pay the bills. I don't know why I let it happen. I had no right to complain. My self-esteem was so low and I was desperate trying to make this work as I thought my life would be worse being single. When I realized I had enough, I called it off and moved back with my grandma. I loved living with her as she spoiled me. While living with her, I got in touch with an old friend that I haven't seen in years. His name is Drew and we knew each other since the first grade. I invited him over and he came by, so we hung out in my backyard late afternoon. I told him about how my ex-boyfriend behaved like a child, which got him to ask me if I was seeing anyone recently. It's only been a few months since I left that leech of a bastard, so I tell him no, and that I'm not really seeking out to meet or date anyone. Drew goes on to say that he has a best friend that thought that would be perfect for me, and he can introduce me to him today. I laughed, but I told him I doubt it, as I felt like a mess due to the previous relationship, but he insists that this guy is the one. I wasn't in the mood for this, but Drew wouldn't try to do me dirty, so I agreed. I get up and told my grandma I was going to be heading out with Drew. As he drives me to introduce me to his friend, he continues to go on how great of a guy he is, and that he was madly in love with me when we were younger. He hasn't even told me the name of this guy, so I asked him, and he said that his name is William, who was this younger guy who used to follow me around. I told him that I thought William was younger than us, as he was shorter than me. Drew doesn't acknowledge anything that I said, as he was on the phone calling William, and when he picks up, he passes the phone to me to make me talk to him. I introduced myself, and we talked for about a minute or two. He seemed really nice and sweet, but a bit airheaded. We arrived to his house, and to my surprise, he wasn't as short as I recalled. He was very well off in life and was only younger than me by 1 year. He had an amazing job and home. I had a huge smile to meet someone who I thought was already a complete opposite as my ex, so now I'm feeling lucky that Drew introduced this guy to me. I shouldn't have doubted him. Call me dumb, but after hanging out a lot with William, we started dating after 1 month. He had a lot of money and would buy me a lot of gifts such as jewelry or dresses, but I couldn't accept them. It was nice at first, but don't get me wrong, it didn't feel right. He looks at me and tells me that I'm his best and only girl and that I deserve everything in the world. In the end, it doesn't matter if I accepted them or not, as he would place them in my car or inside my purse when I wasn't looking. He also wouldn't stop calling me and wanted to talk for hours the moment I left his house. Eventually, he introduces me to his entire family just 1 week after we started dating. I thought it was a bit odd, as I usually don't introduce my partners to my family unless we've been together for at least a year. But whatever, maybe he just took me that seriously and wanted to show me off to his parents. When I met his mother, I quickly learned that he didn't own that house. She did, and that he lives with her. I also learned that he didn't have a good job. He said that he owned some company, but in reality, he just worked some side jobs with his father. I was shocked and completely speechless. Worst of all, he lied about his age as well. I was 26 at the time, so he said he was 25, but in reality, he was 18. He turned 18 the day we started dating, which means when I met him, he was legally a child. I felt my head started to spin and had to sit down for a bit. I was trying to process the information I was just given. I drank some water and relaxed for about 30 seconds and decided that I need to get out of here ASAP. As I'm walking to head home, William comes and begs for me to stay, but I told him to not touch me and to never talk to me again. This is when he started to show his true colors. He would show up in my driveway just when I was about to leave to go to a restaurant with a few of my friends. Drew drove him to my house, and he starts to tell me that I need to go back with him and not leave him over some small lies. He's trying so hard for me to date him, and I can't understand why. This is when William walks up and awkwardly proposes to me. I don't want to marry this guy. I want him completely gone from my life. William still doesn't want to give up as he tries to grab my hand to put the ring on my finger. He gets angry and says,
"Think about it before you end up regretting this decision."
I scoffed and went to the restaurant and told my friends what happened. It gets worse from here. William shows up and started to throw a tantrum in front of my friends, completely embarrassing me. He eventually gets kicked out by an employee. Later, his mother calls me asking if I could check up on him, and I told her politely that I am not talking to her son and to please stop contacting me. I didn't want to finish the rest of my food and decided to leave. I gave one of my friends a ride back home, and from behind, I see flashing lights. Both Drew and William were now following me. I pull to the side, and they both get out of the car. Drew then looks at me angrily, saying,
"I'm going to tell you one more time. Talk to him now."
I look at William and yell out that we are over. I get back into my car and continue to drive my friend to his house. They didn't follow us this time and spent the next few nights at my friend's place. Within the next few days, I get back home and I had so many missed calls from William, and my grandma says that she receives a lot of calls from the house phone. What's worse is that the calls she got wasn't from William. They came from Drew's phone number. I didn't just have one, but two stalkers in my life. Easter shows up, and when I was in front of the house, I was with my young nieces while they were on their little egg hunt. This is when I noticed Drew and William in a car, and they would circle around the block. and every time they drove in front of my house, they would drive really slow. I tried to ignore them, but I think this pissed William off, as he got out and pulled a gun on us, to which I quickly grabbed my niece and screamed for everyone to get in the house. He didn't shoot, thank God. But the fact this psycho would not only just pull out a gun on me, but in front of little kids who were trying to have some fun on Easter. I called the police and was able to file a restraining order. I also moved out of my grandma's house so she wouldn't be bothered anymore. I feel at fault for this, but she still loved me regardless. It was scary to think that William would have probably killed me if I never left, and I know he wouldn't hesitate, because just a year later, I heard he got into a relationship, and out of anger, he shot at his girlfriend while she was in the car with her 2-year-old son inside. Luckily, no one was hit, but I hope William is either in prison or dead.
Yeah.
I hope he's in prison, man.
So during the Easter weekend, my parents, sister, and I went to go see an uncle of mine when I was 13. He has a really big backyard with lots of garden and a pool. It was always a perfect place to be at for any holiday. It was a 4-hour drive and I didn't get good sleep the night before, so I took a nap. When I woke up, we arrived, but I was still very tired. I could barely walk and wasn't in a great mood.
Especially when
One thing that was certain was that I wasn't in the mood to talk, so I just quickly greeted my uncle and aunt and went to lay on the couch. I'm someone who has trouble falling back asleep. If someone wakes me up, it's almost difficult to fall back asleep. I'm curled up in the couch so I don't end up taking too much space, and I don't know how to explain it, but I was asleep but also fully aware of my surrounding. Soon, I was able to feel someone sitting on the couch next to me. I heard a deep voice and could immediately tell it was my uncle. I didn't think it was weird for him to sit next to me while I was asleep. After all, it is his house, and I was the one who decided to sleep on the couch without asking if I could. But there's one detail that makes this whole thing really weird. You see, he had 2 other couches that could fit 4 people each. But he instead decides to sit on the couch that I'm in. Not only that, but in the middle seat closest to me. But again, at the time, I didn't realize that. I then felt a hand gently placed on my thigh. I wasn't fully awake to get up and stop it. To be honest, I was also really scared. I'm a small girl, and my uncle is a pretty big man. Everybody was sitting in the backyard, so to no surprise, nobody was aware what my uncle was doing. I don't know how long this lasted, but when I fully woke up, he was gone. I quickly went to my dad and told him what had happened, and you can imagine how furious my father was. He got up and started storming into the house, but I grabbed his hand to stop him. I was scared because what if I just imagined it? Or what if I did something that caused them to do such thing? I don't know. All I knew was that I didn't want to cause a scene because of me opening my mouth. My uncle's a heavy drinker, and when my dad approached him, he was already really drunk. He was slurring his words a bit already, so when my dad went up to my aunt to tell her what happened, she went to go talk to my uncle. However, because of how drunk he was, she decided to wait and tell him later. The rest of the weekend sucked. My mom wasn't aware of the situation, but my dad obviously was. He said this would be the last time that we're ever coming here. He didn't want to confront my uncle, as my dad knew he was going to beat the living hell out of him, and told me and my sister to stay next to him at all times. He wanted my mom to have a good weekend, and during the daytimes, my father, sister, and I would all go out together. We would spend most of the day outside of the house and only come back till it's getting dark, only to get home, stay in our rooms, and sleep. During those nights were the worst though, as I would have nightmares of my uncle breaking in to hurt me again. When we left and got home, I could hear my parents shouting about what happened. My mom was furious, and rightfully so, as she wished she knew about this. We never went back, and they even invited us at one point for 4th of July, but we declined every invitation. I never heard from either of them, and during the time that I lived with my parents, they didn't want any mention of their names. To this day, my mom does not talk to my aunt, and whenever I mention her name to my mom, she would yell and tell me to drop it. We don't mention her name in this house.
Well, that was just a bit. Someone was disturbing, someone was
Yeah.
creepy, it was a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second video, I was just like, how does this relate to Easter?
Yeah.
Because it didn't bring up Easter until at
Near the end. Yeah.
But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. Comment down below any other video suggestions that you guys like us to upload. And
Subscribe.
if you want to see more of these scary stories, you can go and see Haunted Autopsies YouTube channel. Link it in the description below. And I'll link the
video we watched.
the video we just watched. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we will see you next Sunday. Bye.